Well, here we are, podcast number one, still without a name. I thought about it about half an hour ago. I thought we could call ourselves, was it Freeze Peach? You know what that is, Carly?
Freeze speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Uh,
freeze peach. Okay.
Freeze Peach. But anyway, we're not really about necessarily free speech and that. We're about the outdoor stuff. That was just something that popped in my mind. I kind of liked. We could have a frozen peach logo.
I do.
Anyway,
I don't know why.
I'm Tim Molesworth, so I've been behind the scenes in a lot of different ways. In this space, really behind the scenes, helping Carly. Um, Probably not as much as I would like to be able to, but sometimes I'm there to help guide her when there's stuff getting thrown at the fan. Um, so for you, some of you will know me. So I used to be with the Libertarian Party. I'm not anymore, and that's not because of anything I have against the Libertarian Party in any way, shape, or form. That's because the space that I'm working in now, I think, requires me to not be necessarily attached to one particular party. However, I still do have a bias that I like to make people aware of. My belief when it comes to politics and stuff is very much libertarian, as in the philosophy. Um, So I just want to clarify people up on that. I don't actually use state forests all that much. I get to use private land for my activities for the most part. However, occasionally, I'd like to go out to a state forest. I did a couple of weeks ago and had a look for some deer. No luck. Um, so I'm really in this space mainly because it's just another area in which I see the government acting like it's our masters when it's meant to be, and it's not, but it's meant to be our servants, right? They're meant to be
Mhm.
public servants. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm getting behind Carly. I believe in her cause. I love the way she fights. As long as she's having fun, I'm always telling her, do whatever you want as long as you're having fun. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about me, and so now we're helping Carly get this podcast up and running to give you guys a bit of an update on what's going on. Over to you, Carly. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Carly Murphy. I jumped headfirst into something that I had no idea that I was doing, and it's just exploded. But we're Victorians Against the Great Forest National Park. There's a proposal that's been going on for 12 years now, that we discovered that of environmentalist groups trying to get the Central Highlands, the state forest, turned into a 355,000 hectare national park, that would span from Ilden all the way to Newgee to Gippsland. It's just crazy, the size of this thing. So yeah, we just started a bit of a pushback against it, and then found a lot of inconsistencies in things that were being said, so called those things out. We're now nearly at 23,000 people in the group, which is amazing. Um, we held a rally well, not so much a rally, it was more of a organised uh, personal letter to the government, um, where we spelt out no more parks with people up at Woods Point. And we had 1,000 people there. They haven't seen that many people at Woods Point since back in the gold mining days. So that was a fun day. Um, but yeah, basically just fighting the good fight.
Yeah, accidentally got political, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I first started this, I was like, we are not getting into politics. Like I was telling people that we're not talking about politics, and I was, adamant. This is not political. We're not getting into politics. It's like a month later, and I'm like, holy crap, this is big political stuff. Like, and
It's
I've been a politics nerd ever since. So it's.
yeah, it's been quite an evolution for you, sort of. I think when we first spoke, you were still in that mind of very much like, oh no, it's not about politics or even political parties or anything like that. And
Yeah, yeah. I
um,
was, trying to keep the rallies separate from
yeah,
all political things, and I didn't understand any of it because I've never taken an interest in anything to do with politics at all. And I think that's part of the reason why we're at where we're at in Victoria now. And
yep,
I'm a prime example is, we don't pay attention. We just trust that
yep, you,
we trusted that the government would have our best interests in mind and would do the right thing by us. And no, no.
you can ignore politics. Politics will not ignore you.
Nah.
And as the government grows and believes it has more authority over your life and your personal decisions, the more people need to start paying attention, start looking at, out of the minor parties, who's the best. And
Mm,
I'd argue I can't really tell the difference between them much at all. In this
yeah.
space, though, the Liberal Party and particularly the Nationals have been helpful, at least some of them.
Yeah.
So you got to give that credit where the credit's due. They have backed us. That they've helped with petitions, and they held the first rally over there
Yeah.
in.
Druin.
So so when it comes to this, when it comes to voting for the majors, and we'll get to this later, I wouldn't vote for them first. You need to be considering the Liberals and the Nationals before Labor. But that's a conversation maybe for later. Now
Mm-hmm.
we've got a new petition out, Carly.
Yes, yes, this one's federal. So our first petition was we had two petitions running that we contributed to um, that were the No More National Parks one with that was sponsored by Melina Barth. Got over 40,000 signatures, and it's now the highest uh, highest amount of signatures on a Victorian
Petition.
parliamentary petition since the suffragettes for the women's right to vote in 1890. So
Yeah, not too.
we did pretty well on that one. That's going to be debated in May. But now we've realised that all of this is part of a bigger problem, and that's a federal problem. So the 30 by 30 biodiversity framework agreement is part of the reason why we're seeing so much of our land being, locked up for conservation and changed land tenures and everything, because they're trying to conserve and protect 30% of Australia, which, look, it's a global thing. It's come from the UN. It's my belief is we do need to conserve, we do need to protect, but
Hmm.
you can't just throw a blanket amount on each country. Like there's 190 countries or something like that are involved in this, and they've all got the same target, no matter on what size they are. Or you can't just lay blanket things on there like that. And uh, it's I just don't find that it's really practical for what we need to conserve and protect in Australia. So we've got a federal petition going to pull us out of this 30 by 30 agreement with the UN. Um, it's really going to be used as more of an election issue. So to get it out there, to get people talking about it, to realizing what's going on, that this is part of a global, you know, I have to be careful with my words, but it's part of a global agreement that um, we don't have any say over, and we didn't agree to, and we
Hmm.
didn't like. There was no referendum, there was no, vote for this. It was just signed on in 2022 without us knowing, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that that's how democracy works. don't think that's how Australia works, and it's more government oversteps. So we need to get out of it. We need to get people talking about it. We need to start raising the issues. So yeah, we've got a federal petition going. We need to get it to big. So trying to get some big names on board. It's we've only got 25 days left now, and you can't extend it. So we need to get hundreds of thousands of signatures on this thing, and I'll link it in this in the comments on this video once I work out how to.
Yep, and that's it. And people need to grab that. You need to share it around. You can't expect a Facebook page to get through to all your friends and family and all that. We put stuff on the page so you guys can take that to your Facebook page or send a link to a friend in a text message or private message, whatever you choose. It's up to you guys to spread the word, right?
Mm.
Carly does the work, gets these things sort of started, or in this case, actually, I think someone else got it started, but
Yeah,
we get behind it, we push it. It's up to you to the individual to really spread it out there.
yeah. Even
We don't
just
do anything.
talking in the street, people that you
Yeah,
come across in the main street, when you're going and doing your shopping, you start talking to someone and they start saying, oh, if the I was going to go camping or something like that, and I've just seen something's changed, and well, you can say, well, that's part of this global thing, 30 by 30. Have you heard about it?
yeah. I'm always looking out, particularly, because I'm in Alex, so I see four-wheel drivers, and
Mm.
sometimes I'll have some pamphlets in my car from whether it's the Libertarians because they've got a pamphlet about this,
Yeah,
or it's one of our ones. Which depends which car I'm in, which pamphlet I've got. I'll go and see them, and I'll hand them a pamphlet and a sticker or something, and try.
yeah,
And I just say, hey, look up the Facebook page. You'll learn a lot more. So it's just stuff like that. And
yeah.
I think the other thing I'll touch on real quick, when it comes to conservation, I absolutely agree that there are areas in Australia where we need fairly strict conservation.
Hmm.
I took the kids to Phillip Island the other week or last week, and we went out to the Nobby there, where you look out over to Seal Rocks, and there is very strict. You can't just go walking around all over the ground. When I was a kid, you could.
Mm.
You can't now. You've got your little boardwalk, and you can go and you can see the penguins. Obviously, not to interact with them. And they're the fairy penguins. I think they've got them. They've got some in Melbourne. There's some over Warrnambool Way. I think it might be Port Fairy actually. And then you've got Phillip Island, and there are basic populations of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like the idea that we can protect them. Phillip Island, it is an area where we can deal with foxes and cats and all that, and that it can be that could be the last stronghold of the fairy penguins in the future. So yeah, lock that up a little bit. I would like to see some allowances or something done about the rabbits there, because the rabbits are digging burrows and stuff, which isn't good. But I'm not against that. But
no,
we don't need
like that.
30%. We just need
No,
to recognise those places that need it, and deal with
yeah,
that particular thing, not just lock up blanket amounts of land, and people can't even pick up a stone off the ground or out of the river, which is the case in national parks. Strictly speaking, you
hmm
cannot take a stone out of the river. So yeah, we're not against that at all.
no, no, and there's some really really important places that we need to conserve and protect.
Yep.
But yeah, we can't be just throwing blanket, land tenure changes over places just to make up a global percentage.
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
Just crazy stuff. It's what do you call virtue signaling? It's just like, oh, look how good I am. I've protected this much land. It's like, yeah, but for what? Why? What does it
exactly.
actually achieve? Um, will we move on?
Yeah, I'm getting
Just
angry.
make sure you're having fun, Carly. You're at your best when you're having fun.
I'm trying.
Um,
Anger and fun. I
yeah,
do.
looks,
Anger does fuel me. So
yeah. Sometimes it is fun to be angry. Um, let's talk about your camping trip and your experience
oh.
there, and then problems that we recognise.
So my birthday camping trip. So we went to
Rubicon.
so well, because I'm not a bush user. So me and my partner, we got a rooftop tent, and we decked it out and everything months before we were going to go for my birthday weekend and everything. And we ended up, uh, my mum organised it, and Dad had said to her, Kim, it's going to be a long weekend. It's going to be flat out. Mum's like, no, no, it's fine. Everything will be fine. I get there and Mum's like, oh my God, there's people everywhere. And Dad's like, I told you so. But um look, there was just people on top of people on top of people at Rubicon. So camp area was where we were. And like the first night, I could not believe the audacity of people like pulling up because it was full before, because my parents went out there Wednesday, I think it was, and got a site and set up and everything so that we'd actually have a decent site. And people started rolling in Thursday night, Dad said. By Friday, there was nothing left. There was no campsites left. So people were going in there and they're just driving around trying to find somewhere. And because they couldn't find somewhere, they'd go down to the next ones and everything, still couldn't find anything. So they'd come back and they'd actually go and, go into someone else's campsite and just park in there and set themselves up. And then there was people that were there were people that were stopping in the middle of the road and setting up for the night. And you're like this was 10 o'clock at night. Like obviously these people had come to go hunting or whatever like that. They only needed to sleep, so like it's fine. But the overcrowding and the fact that there was just no room for everyone, um, in the entire Rubicon State Forest, like in the state park, in that entire, there was campsites everywhere. There's campgrounds. There was just people on top of people on top of people. They just pull up, roll out their swags. We had people literally at the door of my tent, of the where, because I had to sleep on the ground because of the dog. And they pulled up at like 10 o'clock, obviously just tired, just couldn't be bothered. They just threw their swags out on the road and slept there the night.
Hmm.
And you just like, there's not enough room.
Yeah.
It's
So it sounds like there might as well been camping in the streets of Melbourne with that many people.
oh God, it was insane. But the thing is, like, if they create this national park, right? What's going to happen with all of the people who go in dispersed camping in state forests, who have no problems finding anywhere to go camp, because you can go and find your own little spot, and it's you
But
know not regulated, and not don't have little sites and everything everywhere. Like they start shutting them off. Where's everyone going to go? To the same campsites? It just doesn't make
yeah,
sense to me. We need to be opening more, not closing areas.
yeah, and that's it. And that's going to be, I think, that's sort of the next topic is the unintended consequences of actually closing up more land.
Mm,
So if if your main focus is just conservation, then actually closing land isn't in your favour if you're actually about conservation.
mm,
And here's my argument why, and we'll see if Carly agrees or has a different opinion. If you close up land and force people into smaller amounts of land, there's a few things that are going to happen. One is particularly with the shooters, there is far more likely going to be some shooting accidents. The numbers of shooters in Victoria are increasing, not decreasing. And and then you lock them into smaller amounts of land. And you've got more novices out there and things like that who are still learning um, how to keep calm when they're shooting. That there is, I think it's an important sport, but it is dangerous. I'm not going to pretend no one ever gets hurt with a shooting accident, but
Yeah.
that's going to get worse. And then the government's answer to that's going to be like, oh, well, we'll have to close up more land because you can't have people shooting there because this person got injured. And that just makes the problem worse again, and then it just snowballs until what's left. Everyone just has to go out and shoot illegally and hope they don't get busted, and that's far worse. And then the other thing that I see is that when you condense people together, if someone leaves a little bit of rubbish, the next person's more likely to. And I think this is just a basic human psyche. If I go into a house that's really clean and they, make me a cup of coffee or something, once I finish that coffee, I don't generally just put it down on the coffee table. I'll get up and take it to the kitchen and put it in or next to the sink, wherever they seem to put their dishes. And because I'm conscious that these are very clean, neat people, and that sort of, they've started the culture by having a clean, neat house, not like mine.
Or mine.
Or yours, yeah. So I think the same thing is going to happen. We go to certain camping spots and we've cleaned them up, and they stay clean for quite a while. And I've noticed ones that are already clean don't seem to get all the rubbish dumped. But where there is rubbish, people seem to be far more likely to just leave rubbish. So if you don't want litter left around, you actually need to allow people to spread out more. And of course, we need to build up this culture of people not littering. But they're the two sort of problems that I saw. The more land you lock up, the more rubbish is going to get left in the bush, in my opinion, even though it might be in smaller areas. And, the possibility of hunting accidents. And also, when you condense people like that, the potential for arguments and fights to get out of control between people. When I go camping, I don't want to be near anyone. I'm out there because I'm getting away.
Yeah.
I don't even want my family with me. So, and I love my family.
Like perfect example of that was when we did go to Rubicon. There was one group of, like, I'm going to say it, bogans. They were
my people.
Look, I self-identify as a bogan. Listen to the way that I talk. Like, I'm a bogan. We're all bogans if you're Aussie. These people were just audacious bogans.
Yeah.
They were just drinking the whole time. They were screaming, shouting. There was music playing all night. I had all I could hear from outside was chicks vomiting. Like, that's what you want to hear. When you're out in the middle of the bush, you don't want to hear the beautiful, river stream. You want to hear the girl out the back that's had too much to drink chucking her guts up. But people like that, they make me angry. And like, it took so much for me not to go over and and say something. But because like it was just little families everywhere in these campgrounds. There was just little kids, they're screaming out swear words all night, just being just gross.
Just inconsiderate. It doesn't matter whether they're bogan or not. Inconsiderate people.
Just nasty. And it was just it just infuriated me. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, there was a huge big group of them. There was one of me. Like, I don't care. If my baby niece wasn't there, but there's not going to be much help coming out at Rubicon when you've got no phone service or anything like that. So if there is, people do start blueing, they start punching on, what's going to happen? Like, you need to have dispersed camping. You can't have people on top of each other, especially when they're people who are from the bush and from the country and don't like that way of life. It's just another
And to be
part
fair
of it.
to our inconsiderate bogans, they, I think they should have a space where they can go out and drink too much and swear and carry on and
Yeah,
throw,
do it.
I suppose. Like there should be a space for that. I know when I was
There
young,
is.
I didn't mind doing that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. And there is. There totally is in
yeah,
state forests
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where they
Go,
can go,
go out
go
with
to their own
families.
area.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah,
So yeah, even bogans have rights.
exactly. Uh,
All right. So what else did you anything else you want to talk about with that? Any other, I don't know, sort of problems you see coming out of locking up more land, or anything else you observed that you
look,
think
my
the
big
government
issue.
needs to do something, or
Look, my big issue. Like the whole Coopers Creek situation. When I went down there to go and check out what the whole big deal was with, they were trying to put skip bins in there and
Mhm.
everything, and they got taken away by Deca and everything. So I did the 7 hour round trip to go there and met with some of the locals and everything and went and had a look. And then people that are supposed to be managing these areas that are employed by the state aren't doing their jobs. It's as simple as that. Then
Mm.
the signage. There's like, I get that there's a massive influx of people who are wanting to go camping now after the COVID lockdowns in Melbourne. I 100% understand that people have taken on a new way of life because of what happened and being locked inside Melbourne for months on end, and they want to get out and they've taken up camping, but they don't know camping etiquette. So they don't know about,
Yeah.
rubbish removal. Don't leave all your crap behind. Don't have fires on total fire ban day. Just small, go and dig a 30 centimeter deep hole to do your business. They don't know all this
Mm.
stuff, but nobody's teaching them either. So, and then there's no one enforcing it either. So, and then people are going, but why is it happening? Why is all this happening? And it's like, because no one's doing anything about it. You look at the signs and everything that they've got up, like no camping in this area. Yeah, cool. It's a sign. That's all it says. It doesn't say if you're caught camping here in day visitor area, there's a $10,000 on the spot fine where someone would go, oh crap, I can't afford $10,000. I'm not going to camp there. It's
Mm.
just small things like that. Just could be implemented at a small
Um,
cost to
I'd,
the state.
I'd say it's worse than them not doing their job. They're
I was
actively
being
getting in the
nice.
way of the community doing their
Oh,
job. I mean that thing with the skip bins, right? It's like, look, we're not going to do it, but if you do, you make us look bad. So we'll fine you if you help keep these campsites clean. It's
that was
disgusting.
so wrong.
It's just, I
And
don't know if it's stupid or disgusting. I can't decide.
they were threatened with fines if they didn't
Mm.
remove the bins.
The,
Donated skip bins.
yeah, and I remember, that's going to sound old now. I do have some grey hairs. It used to be that you were encouraged as the community to go out and do things. I remember Clean Up Australia Day was something like every year, everyone knew Clean Up Australia Day was coming up, and
Yeah.
schools
Tidy
advertised it was
towns.
on TV.
We had Tidy Town Awards.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Like
Yeah,
we've still got plaques up here in Ilden,
but
like
now the new thing,
1990.
now the new thing seems to be, it's like, oh, okay, look, there's a mess there. Leave that for the government. If the community gets involved, then it looks like the government's not really doing their job. We don't really want you doing that, and we'll probably fine you. We'll come up with something.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just, I don't know, it's just so. It's so
backwards.
anti-Australia.
It's the bureaucracy in this country is ruining it.
There, bureaucracy backed up by idiot politicians.
Yeah, that allow it to happen, that
Yeah.
have no lived experience in the world of, and
And
they're just career politicians that have just moved up the ranks.
yeah, I don't think they think about it too much. You know, the the bureaucrats, not the public servants. Public servants and bureaucrats are different.
Completely different.
Sometimes the public servants are a problem too, but generally it's the bureaucrats. And
Mm,
you know, I mean, they come along, they tell the politicians, look, here's what we're seeing. This is what you have to do. And the politician goes, oh, okay, no
mm.
worries.
I'll make it law.
Probably shouldn't do those voices, get in trouble. But anyway, like they're not thinking people.
No, no.
Yeah.
Some of this, there is some good ones. There is some good ones, like, that have, you know, have helped us, especially lately.
Yep.
But
They're generally not in the major parties, but sometimes they are.
yeah. Sometimes they are. Um, but yeah, but there's just such simple ways of acting on this, and the thing that I want to put to the minister and everything is, like when I was doing the Clean Up Australia Day at Woods Point, and I had Deeker contacting me, asking me what I was doing and if I
Mm.
had all the permits and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm just going to clean up some camp areas.
Yeah.
Like, why is this like? Why have I got bureaucrats emailing me and trying to call me about going and cleaning some campsites?
Yeah, but
Like,
maybe instead of spending time calling you, they could be doing their job, and I don't know, they could keep an eye on some campers and issue a couple of fines, you know?
exactly.
Um,
But
on,
then the government is actually, taking all those people away. They're defunding all of the rangers. Parks Vic is a mess.
yeah,
Don't even get me started. They're taking away the people that can actually, enforce the fines. So what is going on here?
well, I mean, the state's broke, but that's a whole other conversation, which I don't have all the details to get involved in. So
Mm.
they're just spending money everywhere, and you know, you got to start making cuts. And at some point, even the Labor government has to start making cuts.
Well, but they're not making cuts. They're increasing levies, like this emergency services um, fund.
Yeah, well,
The
let's touch on that real quick. I was going to leave that for next time, but I think we can touch on that one.
Oh, I'm infuriated by this. Right, so the emergency services and volunteers bill got through the lower house, obviously because they've got the majority of Labor. So it's up next for the upper house. This thing will impose up to 170% increase on some farmers' taxes that they have to pay to the shires or the councils on top of their rates. Sometimes this is going to be more costly to them than their rates that they pay. And it's not even going just to volunteer organisations, which they try to make it sound like it is. It's not. It's going to be funding forest fire management, which is a state-based organisation. 000
Yep, call centres.
call centres, so that's state funded. It should be state funded, and the metropolitan fire services, and there's a whole heap of other ones that are meant to be state funded, but the state's got no money because of the SRL, so they're putting it onto regional people to pay for those services that
Yep.
they should be paying for.
And it's one of those things. I think it's one of those things where the politicians have been a little bit smart. It's like, well, who can we punish without copying a hard time about it? It's like, well,
Because
farmers,
they're the
right?
minority. They're the minority.
You've got two problems with farmers. Is they are a minority. generally they're not paying a whole lot of attention to politics. So you can bring
Hmm.
this thing in and they're not aware until they start getting bills. And then they're going to be going, what's going on here? Why am I paying for triple
Yep.
zero call centres as if Melbourne doesn't use them?
Yep.
Um, and I just think they've been really smart. It's like, yeah, we'll just go after the farmers because no one cares about the farmers. Well, look, okay, we need
This is
farmers to
where,
start paying attention to politics, but if you like to eat, you should love a farmer.
yeah. But
I
this
know
is where
I
we
like to
also
eat.
need to get community back together. So
Yeah,
no one gets left behind. So in your community, if you see that something's happening to your farmers or to your, the people on pension, or something that doesn't affect you directly, which this does actually affect everyone, every ratepayer in a council, and that's why Mansfield Council are actually saying that they're protesting against this. They won't do it. They
yeah,
don't want
we're
to put this on their
eating.
people, which is amazing. Which is,
Mm.
and I think there's a few other councils that are doing the same because it's just too much and it's going to destroy these people's lives, And but we need to start, looking out for each other. And if you see that there's a political issue going on with another group within your community, you get behind them,
Yep.
because then one day you might need them and they'll get behind you. We need to bring back community really bad. That's going to be my main cause at the moment, is bringing back, sticking up for each other, having each other's backs, being mates.
Yeah,
It's the only way we
and
can
being
get through this.
and being ideological enemies sometimes, which is healthy.
Yeah.
Have those debates and figure out what the best ideas are, and
Oh,
that
if you
that
go,
is part of.
if you, sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say, I think that's part of what we are talking about before. When you have the community, you identify a problem like campgrounds aren't being looked after, and they're a part of the economy, in local towns and things. And so the community just gets out there and would clean it up. But we
Yep.
don't have really, that there's some Facebook pages now, but for a long time we sort of haven't had that going on because people aren't involved in the community where they can go and grab 10 or 20 people and
Oh,
go and clean up some areas.
but there's also issues within communities. So, like my community, right? So, I've wanted to get involved in the community pretty much my whole adult life, but there's a group of people who run all that sort of stuff. And, if you're not part of their clique, you're not going to get brought in and be able to help your community. So, like, this is where I really think that a big conversation we need to be having with all these ministers and everything is about bringing in volunteer programs within their government, like but like with DECA
Yeah.
and parks. Have a once a month volunteer day. See how many people rock up, because there's going to be a crap ton load of people that they want to go up and help. They want to help you do your job, because we know that the state is broke and
Mm.
you can't do what you're meant to do because you're not getting paid. And like, we know the funding's not there. It's not against these workers. We want to come up and help, but we're not allowed to. Put us through a 1 day, little quick crash course of quick, safety stuff and everything like that. Have people certified in being volunteers or something, but open up
The,
volunteer
the,
based things.
the problem I see there is you'll get some bureaucracy that's in charge of doing all the safety course stuff, and then there'll be some corruption, so they'll make sure that they charge everyone like $1,000 for their 2 day course, and then I'm not volunteering to pick up rubbish. I've got to pay $2,000 to course something stupid, and that's what tends to happen with these things. And that's we need politicians that can stand up to bureaucrats and go, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, but where do we? I just oh God.
They exist. They do exist.
I know, but there's not enough of them, and they're not uniting to make it easier.
Well, Yeah, not enough of them are yet, but I still, that'll be our next conversation, so we might as well go into that, I suppose, if you think we're done with talking about the other thing.
Yeah, I forgot what we're even talking about.
Okay, we were talking about the 000 levy or the
Oh
emergency.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh look, I'll just put in that. Look, Tim and I were going over to there. I think it's the mayor, Steve Raby. He contacted me yesterday.
Good
Um,
bloke.
Amazing bloke. So I spoke to him for about 45 minutes, and he's just beside himself that he's going to have to impose this tax on the council, and uh, he really wants help to push back against this. So he's reached out to me. I've reached out to Tim. We're going to meet him this week sometime. We haven't organised a day yet, but we're going to go over and mobilise and start a bit of a campaign against this levy, because we can't let this get through the upper house. So we need to start banging out emails like we did in the beginning with the environment minister, all the other ones about the mis and disinformation bill, how we were firing out emails like crazy to all of the MPs involved. We need to do that about this fire services levy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and fix
keep
that.
an eye out for that, because there's another campaign coming.
Yeah, so starting to stretch way out from just the national park issue. We're really
Yeah.
starting to become sort of a rural issues, I
I think it's
suppose.
more communities, like,
Yeah, yeah,
because
community issues. Yeah,
yeah, because like being in Ilden, Mansfield's just straight over from us. We care about our communities. So,
yeah,
if I can do anything to help, I want to do it. And Steve reached out and he really needs help. So,
yeah. And we'll find out more about that and hopefully get some good leadership on fighting that issue.
yeah.
Now, federal election's been called, so that's coming up.
Yeah.
And this is the part that everyone gets excited about, politics. Okay, so maybe
Mm.
I get excited about that. It is really important to identify as individuals, people listening, what parties you most closely aligned with, and don't expect to find a party that perfectly agrees with you on everything. It's not going to
No.
happen. But we've gone Liberal Labor for decades now, and the country's not getting better. Seems to be progressively getting worse. Liberal might slow down some things that we don't like for a while, but then Labor comes along and they speed that up again, but they slow down something else we don't like. It's like, well, they just seems to be pretty terrible. Again, on the issue of the national park, Liberals have been fairly supportive with us, so got to keep that in mind when dealing with the major parties.
Yeah.
But I think you need to identify. So there's been a few parties that are very much on our side. Some of them we have worked well with. Some of them we
Mm.
haven't necessarily worked very well with. We've had some, let's say, roadblocks and disagreements. But when it comes to this issue of the national parks and locking up land and just recreational use and all that, there are parties that we need to be looking at, and they are going to be the shooters, fishers, and farmers. Um, Now, if you're sort of more of a Labor type voter, you'll probably find them a little bit more interesting in that they tend to be a little bit more on the left side of politics on a lot of issues, except for where it comes to guns and farmers' rights and stuff like that, which is the things we're
Yeah.
worried about. So have a look at them. If you like them better than you like, say, One Nation, the Libertarians, trying to think who else. I think that they'd be the main three. Is there anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, or even the Nationals or the Liberals if you want to get involved with them. But if you prefer those guys and you want to see them do well, I'm going to say, look, sign up and become a member, or don't. But sign up and volunteer, or don't. Send them money, right? Find a way to help them. If you don't have much money but you've got time, give them time. These minor parties, I mean, they don't even have time to get back to you. Well, have
Mm.
resources to get back to you quickly when you're trying to offer to help them. This is how
Yeah.
Just under the pump they are. The other parties, they've got heaps of money behind them and all the organisation. These minor parties are struggling for someone who can send out emails. The Libertarian Party's still building up branches. I don't know if any of the others do much of that. So if you want to really get involved in politics and you want to be really active, the Libertarian Party, there's a lot going on there that you can involve yourself in. You can help start up branches or get involved in an existing branch and all that. So there's a lot to do there. The other one is One Nation. They're probably a bigger party as far as percentage of the vote than the Libertarians. In fact, they certainly are. They're not my personal choice, but when it comes to having a better country than what we have now, they are certainly gold stars all over the rest. As far as the major parties and the Greens and that goes. So they're the three parties I personally would be encouraging people to look at. If you don't like them, fine. I mean, you can have a look at Trumpets a Patriot. I have no idea where they are on this
No.
stuff. I could take a guess and say they probably would support us. It'd probably depend on the individual candidate, and that can be a little bit of a mess. So,
The
I,
one thing, like
I'd
the
go
one
there
thing
with
I'll
caution.
say, yeah, the one thing I'll say, Joel Jamal, I found when I was doing that
Yep.
webinar with him the other night, the work that he's doing with Turning Point Australia, they've actually put together a website that you can put in just where your postcode, your electorate, and it'll bring up the freedom friendly parties that we should be supporting. And then it also gives you the ability to reach out. You put your details in, that gets sent to that party that you want to volunteer for. So whether
Yep.
it's giving out how to vote cards or being at the polls on the day, putting up a
There's call
leaflet
flutes. Yep.
drops, little things like that, um, that usually you wouldn't think, that you'd be able to do. But that if this just sends your email and your contact details to that party, so that you can volunteer and help them, which is, I think, it's an
Yep.
amazing resource that Joel and that are bringing out. It's great. So I'll put
So he
that
did
link
that
in.
did that in the last federal election as well, and it was quite successful.
Oh, that's good. See,
Yeah.
I wasn't paying any
Yeah.
attention to the last federal election.
So look, I
Oh,
think that's someone. Well, I'll just talk about the parties again, just real quick. So I think just everyone in this group, I mean, there's different political opinions here. That we've got a lot of people who have different opinions about the whole COVID era stuff,
mm,
and therefore they mightn't really like some of the parties I'm talking about. Well, then have a look at shooters, fishers, and farmers
yeah,
because they weren't particularly bad. They didn't really take much of a stance either way in the COVID stuff. Fairly supportive of the government doing what the government feels it needs to do. So, have a look at them and maybe that's the party for you to get behind. If that stuff was concerning you, then One Nation, Libertarians, particularly in Victoria, I can't help myself. I'm going to say it. Tim Quilty is a hero of mine. He was with the Liberal Democrats, which is now the Libertarian Party. He's just a bulldog in Parliament, and really, really strong on this, on this national parks issues and just shooters' rights and all that sort of stuff, which is all things I'm passionate about.
yeah,
And
he's
he's the
great.
reason I originally joined the Libertarians. And then after a while of being with them, I went, oh, okay, I basically agree with this strange philosophy of just leaving people alone.
Yeah,
So, there are really good parties and there are good politicians we can get behind. And we need to do that.
mm, yeah.
We'll be
Well,
sharing.
personally,
Sorry.
I'll be getting behind. Personally, I've put up my name to volunteer for One Nation
Yep.
at this election. So I'm going to be, yeah, not pushing people or anything like that. Not
No, and look, I think
we're apolitical, but um, you know, any of those parties, we want to see
want
more
to
of
see that
them, not
better.
less.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's it. I've sort of said what my bias is, and I am biased towards the libertarian philosophy. Therefore, yes, I do like the party, but you don't have to, and that's what I'm being careful. If you don't like that, there's other parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all we're saying, and we'll support who we think's best. And
We
Carly and I
support,
can disagree and have a fight at the polling booth, maybe.
yeah. No, we support those that support us.
Yeah,
So we've had support from the Liberals and the Nationals.
yeah,
So we wouldn't be, without pushing, saying like that they've supported us. They have. Well, Melina is the Nationals. She's the one who's done the biggest petition. So
yeah.
Wayne from the Liberals, Wayne Farnham, he had our lower house petition. Like, but yeah,
So
there's always party lines that you've got to.
if you're in the area where Melina and Wayne are, then get behind their campaign,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, give them a hand.
Because outside of helping the minor parties, there's with the major parties, getting good people in there and having some influence over those parties is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're in those seats, get behind those people, and maybe just forget about the minor parties, and support those that are in a party that's more likely to win.
Well,
Unfortunately,
that's the state election anyway. So
well, yeah, that's true. So their state issue. I haven't identified anyone in the Liberals that are. Well, I think if you're over in South Australia, I don't know if he's up for election this time. There is a good one whose name has escaped me, but we might bring that up a bit later. But I don't want to beat up on those who have been supporting us at all. But I do have a distaste, I suppose, for the major parties. But there are good people within those major parties, and if you can identify them, support them.
But we just need to we need to change the whole uni party situation. So
Yeah.
we need to change the way that politics is done in Australia, and not just have the two main parties to choose from. Like, if we can educate people that it's not just the two parties that hold the monopoly. We can change the two-party system, but we have to do that because by getting behind other small parties and helping them.
So you can do that, or the other thing I think, and on the way to doing that, maybe the other thing you can do is actually hold the Liberal Party particularly to account with minor parties.
Yes.
So the Greens sort of grab Labor by the nose quite a bit and lead them around, and they do that with just a few seats here and there, but it's enough that they get sort of the balance of power, or that Labor just really needs to be able to work with them. And so the Greens, they pull that party to the far left.
That's going to be bad for this election.
Sorry?
That's going to be bad for this election.
Yeah.
If Albo has a minority government with Bant,
with Greens and Teals,
we're stuffed.
Yeah, and look, it is shaping up. It could end up being that way. So, save some money in the bank.
I'm going to America.
Maybe under the mattress might be better. Gold, silver. Anyway, we won't give it.
No.
I won't give financial advice.
No.
So, but I see that the Libertarians have been working at this pretty hard, even though they're not in the federal parliament. And One Nation have been working at this for quite a long time, which is trying to pull the Liberal Party back to their base, back to the centre right. We don't want necessarily get all crazy, but just that sensible, common sense, centre right political party.
We've lost the centre.
To be. Yeah,
we've lost the centre.
Yeah. So
there's some great candidates coming up with One Nation. Like Warren Pickering has been behind us since day one. Like he just jumped into the group and he was like, "Hey, how can I help?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" Like, but he's been like instrumental in this since then. So, but you wouldn't know that because he's not he doesn't self-publish anything or put himself out there and stuff. Those are the good people to get behind. And yeah, there is a lot like, and David Limbrick from the state with the Libertarians, he's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm a big fan of David's. I asked him to get me a show bag at the show that he was at for Farmland. I think it was a road. It was at some rodeo on the weekend,
Oh, okay. I missed that. I thought he'd probably be doing a rodeo soon. Yeah.
and I asked him to get me a show bag, and he didn't get me one. So
Nah. He would have wanted you to pay for it. You know, they're not socialists, these
uh,
libertarians.
damn it. But there are some good. There's some good people in every party. But another thing that we need to touch on is the Teals. An independent. They say they're independent. If they receive money from Climate 200 or anything to do with Simon Holmes a Court or any, well, Simon Holmes Court basically. If they receive donations from Climate 200, they are not independent. They should be it should be a party because they have party lines. Because Simon Holmes Court has businesses in renewable energy. So they get these donations so that they will advocate for renewables,
Which makes its money out of government subsidies. So your tax money is being spent on their campaigns, essentially, in a roundabout way.
Crazy, but no, it's community funding. It's community. They come out with this. I don't even know whether these independents, or these new independents that are coming out that have received money from Climate 200. I don't know whether they actually really realize what they've signed up for. That they are now bound. If they do get in, they are now bound to climate, renewables, everything like that. They have a way they have to vote.
Yeah, I don't know how that holds up in court, but that's a whole nother situation. But
how can you not put two and two together there when Simon?
yeah, so if they're taking money from him, then that's what they're about, and that's how they're going to vote. So that'll be that. Keep in mind, teals aren't always using teal colours. Sometimes it's orange or something else.
Did you see that even Labor's not even using Labor colours? Bloody Tanya Plibersek's out there with purple.
That purple is nearly identical to the Australian Electoral Commission's colours.
I know.
So
where's the
makes their
AEC
volunteers
here?
look like officials. It's very dirty.
Somebody call the AEC now.
I think a few phone calls are already being made. We'll see what happens.
Good. Because I saw that and I'm like, oh, she's not even. She's too embarrassed of her own party colours to.
I'm guessing it was someone on her campaign had the same idea for the Yes campaign in the Voice referendum because they tried that same trick. So.
Oh, I hope she gets. Yeah, I hope that really gets called out because that's so bad.
It's pretty terrible, isn't it? And it just shows how pathetic these people really are. And
that's at the federal level, and she knows well and truly knows better than that. That's just
she's yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She probably wrote half the rules. So
it's just so funny.
All right. Well, politics has probably bored most people.
Yeah.
I love it, so we could go on for hours, but we will move on unless there was anything else.
No, I'm just going to hang it on people, so just keep going.
Find a party and get behind them. That's it. That's all Australians need to do. I don't have to agree with the party you choose. Just do that. That's the message.
And policy over party. Look at their policies. Look at their policies. What are their policies? Go through. If you agree with most, you're never going to agree with 100% of them. if you agree with most of them and they stand by what you want Australia to look like, get behind them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the party name is. A lot of people go, "Oh, One Nation's just racist." You get all these stupid one-liners um, that stop people from backing good political parties with good policies because of the party name. Policies over party.
Yeah. Go find out for yourself. Don't
Yep.
don't worry about some label someone's given them. Go find out for
Yep.
yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Have a look. It's generally not
Research.
hard. One Nation certainly made their policies public. Libertarians are still releasing some policies, I think, but most of them are out there. And if you can basically understand the philosophy, you don't really have to see the policies, although it
Yeah.
does pay.
Yeah. It does.
Um, so
But yeah, we
we'll
can move
move
on.
on then. Except that we just mentioned the two parties that we're for. So yeah, identify good politicians. So even individuals over party. If you find someone who's great and they're in the Labor Party, but they're really, really great and they're on our side, just
Yeah.
get behind their campaign and give them a hand. Don't join the party. Don't give that party any more
No.
money, but give them a hand.
No.
If they're
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
and you like them, go do it. Get involved.
Yep. If they're good politicians, but we just
Yeah,
get
that's
behind
what we
them.
need.
We just need good people in Parliament. That's all we
Yeah,
need.
absolutely. All right, now Carly, you have abandoned us. You're cheating on us. You have joined another organisation. which is
Yeah.
which is really it's all a part of the same thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it kind of just it'll give us a way to basically it's going to after May or September or whatever, whenever this park issue is announced by the minister, it'll give us an ability to keep going with these issues. So I've joined the Australian Recreation Union, that's basically a new advocacy group of two guys who came out of Shooters Union. They wanted to fight more recreation issues, so they've banded together, started, their own organisation, and I watched them for a few months because Simon from Four Wheel Drive TV is behind it as well. He's on the board, and he was very keen to get me on board, and I was iffy because of this fight, and wanting to stay apolitical and not being in an organisation. I'm not a bush user, so it was like So I watched them for a few months, and then I really believe what they're behind. I listened to a podcast they did with the Hunting Connection with Zach Williams, and that got me over the line. I was like, nah, these guys are grassroots. These guys are exactly what I want to get behind. So now I am the Victorian manager of public land access and recreation. So
it's a good
yeah,
fancy title.
yeah. It doesn't really flow, but we'll find a way
The more
somehow.
words there are in the title, the more important you are.
Well, let's just add a few more in there. I don't want to be important, Tim. I've got enough on my plate, but this allows me to now advocate for all Victorian recreation groups, like all of you, to on a federal level. So we've got people from New South Wales, we've got South Australia, we've got Queensland, there's a whole different group of people that are now on the board with me, and we're going to have all states covered. It's Australia wide. So once one issue starts popping up in one state, and that we're putting out spot fires like crazy, but we can unite everyone and get a big group of people to stand up against these laws that they're trying to bring in, like Western Australia with their gun laws. Imagine if they had the whole of Australia with their anyone who's a shooter, a camper, a fisher, anything like that. Imagine if they all got behind the WA gun owners,
Yep.
and we're not that's not happening. Um, that these laws wouldn't have been able to come in, and instead they have.
Well, I mean, it's very hard to put pressure on a state government from outside of that state. But what it could have done is certainly help spread the message a lot faster,
Yep,
let people know what was happening a lot quicker.
yep.
Um,
Get other
so,
states ready.
yep, and well, look, and I'll touch on that real quick, guys. These laws don't stop in Western Australia. They might not be here yet; they're coming. So
They are
just
coming.
keep your ear to the ground. Even listen to the shooter organisations that you don't like, and just keep an eye on things because we're going to have to start working together really hard, really soon.
Yeah, but that's what Australian Recreation Union is all about, is getting behind these issues. And it doesn't matter who it is. Like we just want good people to be advocating for all the different recreations. We want to get everyone under one banner so that we've got force behind there, people power. Say, hey, you don't do this, you're going to have this many people pissed off at you. How's that going to look at your next election?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why it's important to be a little bit political. I know people don't love it, but be a little bit politically active because when we make the threat that this will cost you in the next election, we want them to learn that that threat has results, that it's
And
not
that's the
empty.
only reason why we've got this far with the Great Forest National Park stuff, because
Yeah,
we had the numbers. They didn't care about me before we had the numbers. And then as soon as we had the numbers, it was, oh, Carly, we're going to meet with you and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it's no, we're not, now they're putting out in the media that they're not making any new national parks. Like that's a huge 180 since this time last year. Well, not even this, well, May last year when we were going to community consultations and they were asking us, what do you want to see in your national park?
that was already assumed.
So you can have influence through politics, 100%. You just need to have people power. You need people behind
Yep.
you.
Yep. And the government needs to know that that people power will act.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be too angry with Labor at the moment. I will be, but you don't have to be because
I
they are
am.
back. So,
I'm still angry.
so yeah, and being in the ARU, so that got you on a it's not a podcast. What was it, like a webinar type
The
thing?
webinar, yeah, yeah. With the Aligned Council, and I got to do it with to ask Craig Kelly questions and Senator Gerard Reddick, and
Two champions.
they are legends. I had the best time. Like even like Joel Jamal, he was hosting it. They were all so beautiful. It was I was so scared because it's my first time ever doing anything like that. And all the organizers, everything, they were just so great. And yeah, I had such a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
that
that
was good. You were able to advocate and find out, where Craig and Gerard stood on these.
issues for Queenslanders coming up to the
And
election.
they both seem to be well aware of them, and I think
Yeah,
that they want to back us up, so that's good.
yeah,
Now you've mentioned Joel a couple of times, so Joel Jamal, I think is how you pronounce it.
yeah.
Um, here's another. If you guys want to understand a little bit more about politics,
Mm,
follow Joel Jamal. He also runs Turning Point Australia, and he
yeah,
has the ARC podcast, so
yeah.
ARC. Um, the he's a really knowledgeable guy. The other one to look at, a mate of mine, so I have to promote him, otherwise I'll get in trouble.
If you
Is
didn't,
Toast
I would.
Field. Sorry?
If you didn't, I would have.
Yeah, he's a good bloke.
Yeah,
So So that's Topher Field. You can find him on YouTube, Facebook, and
X
he'll
everywhere.
yeah. So he's a little bit he's more libertarian like me. So that would be his bias when he looks at anything the government's doing. He takes a libertarian sort of approach to it, but he supports anyone who wants to make Australia better. Who wants to put Australia first is maybe the easier way to put it. Instead of
Yeah.
all the foreign deals and things like this 30-30 agenda. So he works with One Nation guys, and he's worked with Gerard and stuff, and done interviews with him. So he has his bias, but he's tries to be a little bit like I'm trying to be, and just let you
And
know
he's
where that is.
very, very, very knowledgeable about politics.
Yes, yeah, probably a little bit more than Joel. Joel's very active in giving us tools to
Yes.
help people who are really new to it to get to understand it. Um, Whereas Topher is probably better at picking up, when a new bill comes in, he's going to let you know how that bill's actually going to play out in reality, as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
what the government thinks it's going to do.
yeah.
So they're two guys to get behind, or just follow and learn from, because my knowledge of politics is, I've been playing in the game for a little bit, I suppose, but it's not as deep as those guys.
And I'm just a newbie.
Yeah, although I think even you're going deeper than me now. You're a proper political nerd now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am a nerd.
I'm just a
Yeah.
nerd wannabe.
Yeah, fascinated by it all. Fascinated. Just like, how did we get here and how do we get out of here?
Well, in a democracy, we get the government we deserve, and if you don't pay attention, then you deserve.
We got what we deserve.
Yeah. So pay attention, and let's deserve better, and then have better.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Cool. Well, we've probably been going for a while. Can't see a timer.
Yeah, over an hour.
Okay, right. Well, that's probably enough then. So we'll wrap up, I suppose.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining our unnamed podcast. And
Find us a name, right? So Topher did this so he's got a podcast with another Carly. So
Carly, yeah,
I've done my
yeah.
hair a little bit in a Topher fashion to try and encourage him to do his hair properly again. Um, so and he kept asking people what they wanted the podcast to be called, and they come up with Oddcast. So
Yeah, I like that name.
I don't want Oddcast. You want Ottercast?
Well, we could. We are quite odder.
I'll give myself a new name. We'll call myself Tofu Paddock or something like that, so I can be a real wannabe.
I just keep Carly because
Because you just keep Carly, because that works. Anyway, yeah, look, some name suggestions in the comments when this comes out would be good.
Yeah.
And I'll probably hate them all and just come up with something different that actually sucks.
And then I'll tell him that I overrule it and he's got no say.
Yeah, and then Carly will pull rank. So. All right,
You make
guys.
me sound so nasty.
You are, but not to
I am
me.
not. I am not. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.